Walter White from Breaking Bad and Dexter Morgan from Dexter are two of the most complex, morally ambiguous characters in modern television. Both lead secret double lives, committing heinous acts while maintaining outward appearances of normalcy. However, their motivations, methods, and psychological profiles diverge, setting them apart as distinct antiheroes. This comparison will explore key aspects of their characters, including their motivations, morality, relationships, and psychological complexities. Let's start the analysis with Walter White. Walter's journey begins with an understandable motive. He wants to provide financial security for his family after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. However, as the show progresses, it becomes clear that Walter's real motivation is not just money, but also power and ego. His transformation into Heisenberg is driven by a deep desire to be recognized, respected, and feared. His crimes become less about necessity and more about personal gratification and dominance. Walter begins his descent into criminality by justifying his actions as being for the greater good, for his family's survival. However, as the series progresses, his moral compass breaks down, and his decisions are no longer about others but himself. By the end of Breaking Bad, Walter admits that his actions were never truly for his family. They were for him, for his pride and his sense of power. Walter's relationship with his family is central to Breaking Bad. His wife, Skyler, is initially unaware of his double life, but she eventually becomes complicit to varying degrees. His relationship with his son, Walter Jr., also suffers as he becomes more immersed in his drug empire. Walter's relationships deteriorate as his criminal life takes over, and by the end, he has alienated almost everyone close to him. Walter is not a killer by nature, but he becomes one when it is necessary to protect his empire. His primary skill is in chemistry, and his rise as a drug kingpin is through his production of high-quality methamphetamine. As his empire grows, he employs more violent and manipulative tactics, orchestrating complex schemes that result in the deaths of others. Walter's weapon is often his mind, as he outsmarts his enemies and uses intimidation and manipulation. Walter's transformation into Heisenberg reveals a man consumed by ego, hubris, and a deep-seated inferiority complex. He begins as a mild-mannered, overlooked high school teacher, but over time, he revels in the power that his criminal life gives him. Walter's moral degradation is gradual but inevitable, and by the end, he is willing to sacrifice anything and anyone for his empire. By the end of Breaking Bad, Walter's legacy is one of destruction. He leaves a trail of death, pain, and suffering, including the deaths of loved ones and countless others involved in the drug trade. His empire collapses and he dies alone, having alienated his family. His descent into villainy is complete. Okay, now let's talk about Dexter Morgan and see if any similarities can be identified with Walter White. Dexter's motivation is different. From the outset, he is driven by an inherent need to kill, stemming from childhood trauma and a resulting psychopathy. However, his adoptive father, Harry, teaches him a code to only kill those who deserve it. Dexter's motivation is therefore a mix of an uncontrollable urge and a moral framework imposed by the code. He believes he is a necessary evil, eliminating those who pose a danger to society. Dexter rationalizes his need to kill by following the code, which allows him to justify his murders as acts of justice. He convinces himself that he is saving lives by removing dangerous criminals from the streets. Unlike Walter, Dexter rarely acts out of selfish motives, though his sense of justice is still perverse, and he struggles with whether he can ever be normal and lead a life outside of his dark urges. Dexter's relationships are more compartmentalized. He maintains a facade of normalcy with his girlfriend, later wife, Rita, and later becomes a father. However, he is always emotionally distant, maintaining a duality between his personal life and his life as a killer. His closest relationship is with his sister, Deborah, which becomes increasingly strained as she starts to learn more about his true nature. Dexter is a methodical and precise killer. His murders follow a ritualistic pattern, as he carefully selects victims based on his code, stalks them, and then executes them with clinical precision. Dexter's kills are clean and controlled, and he disposes of bodies in a way that leaves no trace. His weapon is his discipline and expertise in forensic science, which allows him to operate undetected. Dexter's psychology is more complex in terms of his self-awareness. He knows he is a psychopath, devoid of normal emotions, but he tries to maintain a semblance of normal life by adhering to the code. He often questions his humanity and wrestles with the idea of whether he can change. While Walter's journey is about losing himself to power, Dexter's is about trying to contain and understand the darkness within him. Dexter's legacy is more complex. In the original ending of Dexter, he chooses isolation, faking his death and retreating into solitude to protect those he loves from his darkness. Unlike Walter, Dexter's downfall is not tied to an empire, but to his inability to reconcile his two lives. His story is one of inner turmoil rather than external destruction. At the end, Walter's story is one of power, corruption, and the breakdown of morality as he embraces his dark side for personal gain. Dexter's journey, by contrast, is more introspective, as he navigates his dark impulses while adhering to a moral code. Both characters captivate audiences by challenging our understanding of right and wrong, making us question how far we might go if pushed to the brink. Do you agree that Walter White is a made psychopath while Dexter is a born one?